FOG number 3 is Kerry Boustead. Kerry is a giant in the game of rugby league, named in the top 100 players of all time in 2008. A year later, he was inducted into the Queensland Sport Hall of Fame. Kerry played 6 Origin matches for Queensland, as well as another 9 games in the Interstate Series. Kerry Boustead has the distinction of scoring Queensland's first try in Origin football and was the first to score 3 tries in one game, achieving the feat in Game 1 of the 1984 series. Kerry played 25 tests for Australia and was a member of the Invincibles undefeated Kangaroo tour of 1982. Kerry Boustead played 180 NRL games for Eastern Suburbs, Manly and North Sydney. Well, Kerry Boustead, thanks for joining us. What does it mean to you to be a FOG, a member of the former Origin greats?
I think it's a great concept, having the FOGs. It wasn't around when we started, and I think with the importance and the results of the way Queensland's going with state of origin matches, that it deserves to be there.
Take us back to the young days, growing up as a young boy in Innisfail. What was that like?
It was great. I had a fantastic time. I had to look back on it just recently. Someone wrote a book about me. It's called Bowie, and I wrote a book on it, and I had to go back and survey all those old years that we used to, what happened then and what happened then, and it was really quite amazing, and the way that the family helped me grow into being a footballer, and the person who helped most, I think, was probably my brother, who was 5 years older than me. And I just followed him in his footsteps along the way. And a lot of people probably wouldn't know this, but before State of Origin started, Ian played for Queensland. He was captain of Queensland schoolboys, and all from the little town of Silkwood. And, so whatever he did, he'd do all different boxing training, hill sprints, all different things all the way through, and I used to just copy him, and so I'd do that. I would be playing that and doing that since I was 6-year-old.
Is that when you first started playing? What was your first taste? Yeah,
6-year-old. Yeah, and obviously I would have been so small that I automatically found the halfback spot, and I could still run pretty good back then. I could get a few, I could still pretty quick. And so the first 6 through to 18, the first 12 years of my life, I was a halfback and played for Queensland schoolboys as a halfback. As I said, everything my brother did, I just did that as well. And so I just followed him along the way, and had a great time. And when I got to the stage of looking at, they said, you're a bit young, maybe we need to move you out a little bit. Move you out. So they put me out in the centres for starters. I played all the way down through Queensland in the centres, and I got onto the wing, and I had to do 2 matches instead of 32. 2 tackles instead of 32, and score a couple of tries. And you go, you know what? This is not a bad spot out here on the wing. So.
When did it start getting serious then? Like instead of following in your brother's footsteps, making some footsteps of your own, when did you realise that you had some ability and the interest started coming from down south?
So when I was 17, I started the year off, and I'm very much a goal setter, and so my goal for that year was to play first grade in Souths for our club. And as I was saying before, Ronnie Slater, he was Billy's dad. He was the captain coach of that side, and I just wanted to be a constant fixture of that particular side. So it started off like that, and then by the time we got to halfway through the year, I was playing for Australia. And it was just like, oops, I've got to change my goals a little bit.
So you consolidated your spot with Souths. You had that locked up.
I had it locked up. I had that locked up, yeah, very well. And
But how did that come about? How do you go from being a 17-year-old kid wanting to play for Souths in Innisfail, and the next thing you know, you're playing for your country?
game at a time. Seriously, a game at a time. And you never know what's going to happen. If you get injured in any of those on the way through, you'll never get there, especially from Innisfail, because it's a long way. And I really think that I was particularly fortunate to make it that far, because in that year that I went from playing from South in Innisfail to a Kangaroo tour at the end of the year, I played 56 games. And if I would have been hurt in the first 20, 25, I wouldn't have gone any further. Wouldn't have got any further at all. So
it must have been head spinning for you though, going from Innisfail to a Kangaroo tour. Reflecting on it now, what are your memories?
I'll get into that a little bit later before we. But you know, like I've got lots of memories. I remember very much all of it. You know, on the way through. You know, and you had to. And each time I had a spare weekend that I wasn't playing for Queensland or a country, Queensland country, or an Australian side or something like that, I was back in Innisfail playing back there. And Innisfail became very aggressive when I went back to Innisfail. And I really don't remember a weekend that I didn't have to go to hospital and get stitched up because...
you were targeted?
Because I was targeted. Yeah. They'd say, you know, oh yeah, you think you're that good, eh? Playing for Australia, eh? And so, and people are just, you know, as you're in back play, just try and knock you out and stuff like that. It was just a thing that it
doesn't happen nowadays that you play in the bush, in inverted commas, and play test football. I mean, there are pathways that doesn't happen anymore. But I suppose your first, outside of being noticed by Queensland, you caught the attention of the Rugby League public making your debut for Queensland against New South Wales at Leichhardt Oval, having to mark Terry Fahey. It's down in folklore now. He was 3 times the size of you. What are your memories about that and marking such a big man, and all of a sudden everyone knows the name Kerry Boustead?
Yeah, you just got to put a plan in place for it, for that particular thing, and I was very, very lucky in the first time I played it with Queensland, because we had our coach was an Australian winger, McDonald, and he put me on the wing, and I said, I've never played here before, mate. You know, like any tips, anything we should do? And he said, your focus is not on anything else bar that winger there. And that focus was there for the rest of my career. This was that, you know, my job was to make sure that my opposition winger didn't score a try. And so that was my focus for the rest of my career. And so that's something that he told me about, and I did straight away. And so when Terry Fahey, when he came along, like I was halfback, and I'm used to tackling forwards all the time. My hardest players that I have to tackle are other wingers like me, because they'll step and they'll move backwards, they'll go frontwards, backwards, they'll go this way, they'll go that way.
And Larry Corowa was on the other wing for New South Wales that night.
Yeah, but Terry Fahey, he would just run straight at you and try and knock you over, and he was like a front rower. And so you just hit him just above the knees, put a little twist on it, turn him back upside down, land on top of him, and then get back up and do it again, do it again, do it again. What I didn't realise is that the amount of force that he was hitting me with, the next day, I couldn't move my arm. So my arm was stuck to the side of my body. And they said, you all right? And I went, no, not really. I don't know what's going on. And it was stuck there. But it got better by about 3 days into the thing. And so, you know, I was right for the next game and the next game and the next game. But yeah, it actually just died for 3 days after Terry Fahey attack, you know. So
well, it didn't hold you back, because you go on in 1978, as you're saying there, in that particular year, to go on the Invincibles Kangaroo tour with players who I'm sure that you would have looked up to, and
Invincibles 82?
oh, sorry, 82, 78. I'm talking about, sorry.
So
You go on the
78.
1978 tour.
Yeah.
I'm getting 4 years ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Even the 1978 tour, to go on a Kangaroo tour
Yeah.
with just some of the greats of the game as a teenager.
Yeah, it was daunting. I mean, I used to go out and used to drink beer and whatever in Innisfail, but going with all these blokes at an average age of 30-year-old on a tour for 2.5 months was, very hard for an 18-year-old
From Innisfail.
from Innisfail. Yeah, it was a big job, and some of the guys really looked after me. They made a point of looking after me, and which was fantastic. They were really good guys, and it was fun. But there's some things that you don't realise, So I'll give you one. So we're on buses. They used to go on a bus everywhere. So you drive 3 hours that way or 2 hours that way, and you go this way, that way to different games and go to training and all the rest of it. And so I'm on the bus and I've got a camera with me. I've always got my camera. And I'm taking photos and all these blokes are looking at me. Anyway, they didn't say anything. So I got off the bus this day and I had to go into the shop and get a coffee or whatever it was. Went in, came back out. And I looked at my camera and I got no photos left on it. It's like, I only got it yesterday. Where's all my photos? Where's my... In the old cameras, you had
The
a
film,
reel.
yeah.
You had a film, yeah. So anyway, I took it to the chemist to get it printed out, and they came the next day. They said, mate, we did it for you, and we've decided to let it run, but you shouldn't be letting people take photos like that.
I can only imagine.
And I went, oh, what have we got? And there was 18 dick shots.
So they got the young bloke.
And it was them telling me, no cameras.
Yeah.
There was no cameras. And that the camera went for a spell for the rest of the time, so.
So you come back.
You can chop that one out if you want.
you come back from the Kangaroo tour.
Yeah.
And how do you get from Innisfail to Sydney? It's a move that almost didn't happen, did it?
Well, it almost didn't happen, yep. So I actually signed the contract. I got offered a contract from the QRL during the year. And they told me some lies. Ron McAuliffe was not happy with Ron McAuliffe. He told me I'd be the highest paid player in Queensland and yeah. First person I spoke to was Artie Beetson afterwards, because we were playing with him. I was playing with him in the State of Origin. And Artie said, oh, yeah, no. He said, I get way more than that. Here's how much I get. And I went, oh, these blokes are liars, And so I just didn't take any notice of them. Didn't want to sign a contract. Didn't want to do anything like that. And when I went home and we came around to our grand final in Innisfail, Souths versus Uniteds in Innisfail, Bob Fulton, Artie Beetson and Royce Ailiff turned up at the game and offered me a contract to play for the Roosters there, which was a very lucrative contract and more than double of what QRL had offered me to stay in Queensland. And so I signed, and I went to my mum and said, are you right with this? And she said, if we were talking to her before about going to hospital every week to get stitched up, she said, there's cameras down there, I think you might be right down there. And so her and Dad said, yeah, you're right, mate, off you go down to Sydney. So
how big a move was it going from Innisfail to Sydney? For a young bloke still. I know you've been on a Kangaroo tour and etc., but it's still a big move, isn't it?
Well, I moved into a place, they gave me a unit. My flatmate was Crusher Cleal, and he was a country boy too. And I couldn't go to sleep in the bedroom because of the amount of noise going past all the time. I come from country, And the amount of noise at Bondi Junction was just crazy. And so I slept under the kitchen table for the first 12 months of the year just to get proper sleep. So it was a big change. It was a big change from where I was.
Were you ever tempted to head back north?
No, I was happy. A great bunch of guys, good, and I love the football, and it's tough football, no doubt about it. It's tough football, but it's not dirty football. It's a lot cleaner than what it was in the country. It really was.
So that was 1979, and then 1980 ticks around. You're playing for New South Wales as well at that time because it was pre-Origin.
Yeah.
What was that like for a boy from country Queensland to be representing New South Wales before Origin came in?
Well, I had set those goals I spoke about earlier on, and my goals went from Innisfail, South and Innisfail, to playing for Australia, not playing for Queensland. Queensland wasn't a big thing at that particular time. And at that particular time, Queensland had lost 20 years in a row. And so if you just got through that game and had a reasonable game, you were happy with it, just playing for Queensland. But my goal then was playing for Australia. And so when I went to New South Wales, the only way that you can play for Australia from there is play for New South Wales. And you have to beat Queensland. So that's what we did.
Memories of the discussion and the inception of Origin as one of the originals to play for Queensland. What are your memories and what were your thoughts about the idea of State of Origin?
Ron McAuliffe called me at the time, and he said to me, Kerry, he said, I know that we've been a little bit nasty to you in the way we've handled things and stuff like that, because what they did was they actually made me pay a fee, which was half of what I got paid that year to play in Sydney. And so he said, we would really like you to come back up and play for Queensland, because New South Wales had already beaten them twice, and there'll be no hard feelings about it. And I didn't really pay a lot of attention to him, but I was still friends with a lot of the players that were in the side which I'd played with the year before. So it was. I would say, yeah, I'll come back and we'll do it. Yeah, fine. I'm a Queenslander, always will be. So that's what I'm doing.
Did you think it would be what it is today when you got together in that first camp, I suppose, back in 1980?
I don't think anyone really thought that it was going to be what it was, and we won the first 5 years of it, of State of Origin, and I was in that first 5 years, and I had a ball. It was really good. It was great playing Crusher Cleal, so when you get to play your own roommates and out there on the field and that type of thing, it's really good. It's a lot of fun.
What are your memories of that first game? Particularly, I suppose, pre the match and not knowing how many people are going to turn up or what, it's going to be like atmospheric-wise. Yeah. What are your memories?
My memories are, pretty... I could still see it now, and I still see standing on the field. And I knew that today I can stand close to the sideline, because last week I had to stand about 15 metres infield because the crowd was throwing cans at me because I was playing for New South Wales. And so today, all the crowd, they're all going, Bowie, Bo, going like this, and I'm going, yeah, full of bullshit, you lot, last week you were throwing cans at me, and this week, they're chanting. And it went really well. Everyone knew that it was going to turn into a brawl. It was all in fight the whole time. It was always going to happen, and the ones who start it usually get the upper hand anyway, and which Artie got into that in 2 seconds. So it was always going to be a very close game, but I think we did well actually on the day.
You have the honour of scoring the first try for Queensland. Where does that sit in your achievements?
That's really good. I'm really sad. I'm sad that New South Wales actually scored the first one.
Greg Brentnell.
Yeah. Greg Brentnell, yeah. Which I know Greg pretty well because I roomed with him on the tours, so that we used to go on tours. So it was fantastic, but I would have liked to have scored the first try
of Origin. First for Queensland.
First for Queensland's not too bad.
First hat trick for Queensland as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned you were there for the first 5 years, that developmental stage, I think it's fair to say, for Origin. Did you feel it growing over those years and the acceptance and what it means to play for Queensland?
I was a bit worried. In the second year because I had to go back and play for New South Wales again. Like they didn't say, okay, let's do it 3 games. McAuliffe, he went, oh, well, let's see how it goes again. Let's do this again and see what happens. And, I had to go and play for New South Wales again. Lucky enough, I scored a hat-trick for them as well. That adds a bit of
maybe the only player to score a hat-trick for both, yeah.
Probably. You only get 2 chances, and so it was really good. But I was just amazed that they didn't automatically change it over to State of Origin. So I had to do that for another year as well. I had to pay for New South Wales, and then State of Origin got on the 3rd year. They said, okay, you can start coming up 3 times for the 3 games, So it was good.
The 82 Invincibles, we'll get to that now.
Yeah.
Were you aware at the time, I suppose, looking around the bus and the room of the quality of play you had with you, that it was a special part of rugby league history? Yeah,
it was really, you could see it. From what I saw, because I played in the 78 one, so I went on the 78 tour and then I went on the 82 tour. And the players, average age of the players in 78 would have been close to 28 to 30. And this lot were close to 24, around the 24 mark. And so we were fit. And the game in Sydney itself had got a lot more professional as well. I'm not sure how the game was going up here in Brizzy, but everyone was full on training and doing a lot more work and all the rest of it. And so we knew that we were going to at least beat them, but what you've got to be careful of is referees. Local referees, that might only have to catch a referee one in their lives and they want their team to win it. And in all seriousness, we lost to France in that 78 tour. We lost to France. And one of the scores of the referees was we got beaten 34 to 26, I think it was. And the penalty count was 32 to 2. And so they just had really good kickers. If you've got a really good kicker in France, you'll win the games. So we had to work that out as well. So we had to know that when we got to France, after we'd already beat all the English sides, we got to France, we had to make sure that we can control the referees. And that's what we did really well in that second game.
I know Kangaroos tours are returning in a modified form at the end of the year, but do you reckon the modern player is missing out on some great life experiences by a couple of month tour of Great Britain and France?
Yes and no. Yeah, it is a really good tour, but it is a long tour. Like you play all year, and then you play another 16 games on tour on top of what you did during the year as well. It does take a bite out of you, and you get a little bit of a start from Christmas through to a little bit of a spell, but not very much, not enough to put you back into full mode.
Out of those players that you played with Kangaroo Tour and Origin, you mentioned, you discussed the genius of Wally Lewis. But from a New South Wales perspective, some of those younger players that were coming through, for example, Brett Kenny, Peter Sterling and so on and so forth were starting out their careers there, and Parramatta was in the middle of those 3 straight premierships. One, of course, you would know only too well, having been beaten in 83. But you were in amongst some of the greats of the game.
Yep. And, there's Wally Lewis. Couldn't get a start. Couldn't get a start in the team because Brett Kenny and Sterlo, they'd come from a club and they'd been playing together all their lives. And so they just teamed up very well and were just blitzing it. Whereas Wally, he had Turvey Mortimer and they weren't getting on at all on the tour. They didn't like each other very much and they weren't playing well together on the field. And so Wally didn't get a start for the tour. He didn't get a start. Didn't start a 5'8" position on tour, I believe.
Well, it shows how
a test match.
We're talking test. Yeah, it shows you how good a player too Brett Kenny was.
He's a good player. Yeah, he's excellent. Yeah.
So back home, you leave the Roosters, played in the 80 grand final, beaten by Canterbury. Then your great mate Bob Fulton heads back home to Manly. You end up playing for the Sea Eagles, make another grand final. What was it like playing on the Northern Beaches?
It was good. When we were playing for the Roosters, a lot of the blokes were single and unattached, and we were all young. And so we were all having a great time, having a ball. Just by the end of that 4 years that I played for the Roosters, I got married. And a couple of the other guys did too, and we left with Bozo and went across to Manly, and it was like a whole different way of doing stuff. It was more professional, but there wasn't as much partying and stuff like that and going out, and it was just more family orientated. And I still had a good time, had a great time, but it was calmer, calmer than before.
And ended up at the mighty North Sydney Bears. Is it fair to say that going back to the Terry Fahey days, I suppose, and your size and the way you played the game started taking its toll on the body at the back end?
Oh, yeah, I was... Manly actually wanted me to play for them for another 4 years. But because I had got injured, I'd broken 3 bones in the last 2 years, that they said... we're happy for you to play for us. We know you can play. It's all good. They said, but, we're paying you a heap of money and we're not getting enough games for you on it. So we're happy to pay you that money, but you've got to do it. We'll pay you separately for each match. And at that stage, I just had some kids and stuff like that as well. And so I said, no, I'm not up for that. I said, because I didn't know when I was going to break my next bone either. So I decided to, got a very good offer from the Bears, and they weren't putting it down to 1 match at a time. So I said, I'll go with the Bears. I'll go there. And that was a learning experience, I'll tell you. But I really enjoyed it. Good bunch of guys. We just weren't winning as many matches, and you really got to go back to the drawing table and work it out. And Frank Stanton at the first year was there, and he struggled a bit with it. And then along came
Steve Martin. And
Steve Martin had a very simple way of doing it, but it really just made everyone give 100% each week, and he did it perfectly.
And there was a few Queenslanders playing at the Bears at that time.
There was too,
well.
yeah.
So, who, Kerry, had the biggest influence on your career?
That's a toughie. Because I went from, as a halfback when I was growing up, to on the wing, I really didn't have any, except for John McDonald at that start, just to kick it off. But like most of my time in Sydney, I played in the centres, and it was Manly. When they asked me to come to Manly, I said, "Do I get to play on the wing?" And they said, "Yes, we've got 2 centres." So you'll dead set be right for the wing. And that was the time that I actually started making a headway of being what I wanted to do as a, like you'd be the best winger in Australia, but I wanted to be the best winger in rugby league. And they have this book each year, and they print it over in England. It's not done in Australia, it's done in England, and they're the ones who pick it. And in 1984 and 85, I got into the world side on the wing. And so that was my last goal that I had set at that particular time.
So what do you reckon a young bloke back in Innisfail playing for Souths, following his older brother Ian around, would think now if you told him you played 25 tests, over 180 games at the top level for a number of clubs in the NRL, of course, in a couple of seasons for OKR, an original FOG, the first try for Queensland in Origin, the first hat-trick for Queensland. What do you reckon that young bloke could think running around the grounds of Innisfail?
Well, the beauty of that potential for that young bloke running around the ground of Innisfail these days is that he can go to Townsville and play for the Cowboys and not have to go 2,000 miles away and sleep under a kitchen table, for the first year. It's that's why when I finished playing footy, I went and started the Cowboys up, was to give everybody a run from North Queensland. There are players in North Queensland that would kill players down in Sydney. Seriously, they were very good, very, very good, and they just never ever got an opportunity to do it.
And where does that sit in your in your order of achievements, do you think?
Oh, starting the Cowboys,
yeah.
Number one, seriously. I think that is giving everybody in North Queensland a chance to take that next step, that first step to get into a Queensland side from North Queensland. I got very lucky. I did get very lucky doing it. I remember even some of the guys actually came to me and said to me, some of the selectors said, actually, yeah, you weren't supposed to get in this year because, you're too young. And we had other blokes already selected for it. And I said, what do you mean already selected for it? Because, aren't we playing here for you to select? And they said, no. We promised them this year that they would get in. But they're injured, so don't worry about it. You're in. And it was like that. You just don't know, you don't know when you're going to get selected and how you're going to get selected and all the rest of it. So.
I know luck does play a part, but so does ability. Kerry Boustead, congratulations on a wonderful career, and thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of the FOGS Queenslander podcast. If there's a FOG you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.